What's up, guys? Chimp here with another very quick market update. And here we are. Bitcoin is at 122K. And the question is, what's next? We've definitely overshot what I thought was possible. When we topped at 123 and started to dump, I thought that it was actually somewhat likely that we had topped. But here we are, Bitcoin right back near its all-time highs, 1 to 2% away. And global open interest, fresh highs by many billions of dollars. It's currently sitting at about 111.5, peaked at about 114. And, the prior peak was about 106, 105, 104. So we've blown that out of the water. Now, a lot of that has to do with altcoins and how altcoins have reacted. Bitcoin open interest also up, right? Meaning, and it's higher than what it was at 123. So overall, like, leverage in the market has gone up. And again, like, clearly I've been wrong. Clearly this thing has been continuing to push. I'm just gonna go over what I think. People can feel free to counter trade me as much as they want. And people often ask me, like, what would it take for me to capitulate and just say, like, look, you just have to get long. And for me personally, what I would have to see is, first I take a look at open interest and where it was prior to the breakout. So it was about 74, 70 billion. And when you look at where it is now, like, I would want maybe not all of this gap, actually, yeah, probably all of this gap, to be honest, retraced. I would want a lot of this froth out of the market with Bitcoin, like, having attempts to dump and rebounding. And we just haven't seen that, right? Like, we saw that a lot, by the way, in last summer, where, Bitcoin was basically, and you can go read my tweets. I was basically like bull posting. I caught this dip within, like, I don't know, $500 or $1,000 off the low. I caught this dip, a bit higher, not at the lows. I caught this one at the lows too, the 56 one. I caught it at like 56.8 or something like that. So what I want to see, again, like, you see global open interest, like, it's basically dumping, basically like flatlining at these low levels while Bitcoin's holding steady. That's what I'd want to see. I don't want to see this like leverage ripping and everyone getting max, donkey long, for lack of a better word, and the market like grinding higher. Like, to me, this is not healthy at all. Like, actually, this gives me like a lot of flashbacks. And I don't know if the chart will let me load it. This gives me a lot of flashbacks to April, May of 2021. And I remember watching Bitcoin and thinking, like, what is going on here? Like, it just kept grinding higher and no real pullbacks. And altcoins were starting to get crazier and crazier and crazier. Like, you had wild shit pumping. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, this is insane. And eventually, like, what it culminated in was into this May 19th style crash. And I think, like, that's, if I had to give my opinion, and again, clearly my opinion's been wrong, I think that's what we're heading towards. Like, I think at some point Bitcoin's gonna slow, and we have like all the reasons for it to slow. Somebody's gonna slow, like, while alts continue to run, while open interest remains elevated, and then at some point the gravity of the market or something exogenous, like in this case, gravity of the market was already starting to act, but then the stock market went down and it sort of was like the catalyst that ended up actually popping it. Like, at some point, I think what you end up getting is like, and I don't know where this tops, right? Some sort of bleed. Actually, I'm realizing the scales are rather big. And this open interest remaining flat, like people speculating, maybe it bleeds a little bit, and then you get a trapdoor, and then the open interest sort of wipes. So I'm still bearish. I think, like, you're basically like, this is like that ETH crash game, right? Where the price can keep going up, and then at some point everyone gets wiped. I think it's a little bit similar to that, where people are speculating, people are getting long, people are leveraging up, and at some point, the music stops, things bleed out, and then things crash out. And most people aren't going to retain their money doing that, right? Like, if you sell here and you come back in 3 or 6 months, you're probably going to be doing better than the average person. Now, obviously, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we go to 200 or 300K. But I don't see who the buyers are on Bitcoin. Like, we can go look at the ETFs. Let's start by doing that. Again, like, for what has been an up-only market the last week or two, we had one decent day, like 1 or 2 decent days. The rest have been pretty mediocre on the Bitcoin ETF, right? Like, money is not coming in through this vehicle. So then the question is, what vehicle is it coming in through? And for the most part, these treasuries are done, right? Like, we can go and look at like a MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is not making new highs. MicroStrategy is actually bleeding. Like, Bitcoin's up today. MicroStrategy is down, right? So MSTR is down while Bitcoin is up. You have this David Bailey guy who, I'm trying to find the tweet. Like, he's probably the buyer today because this guy's basically been telegraphing direct, like, openly, like, hey, I'm gonna go and buy $762 million worth of Bitcoin in the open market. So he's the buyer. And which other treasuries are left to buy Bitcoin? Like, I don't think there's many, if any, that are left to buy. So the treasury bit slowed down, and now these treasuries don't have to sell, but I want to see if I can pull up something. Let me see if I can pull it up on a separate tab and port it over. These treasuries are going to be a problem long term. People can go look it up. Like, basically, these treasuries have like ridiculous fees. It's very similar to GBTC. It's basically actually almost entirely the same GBTC setup, where these treasuries, like, it's too good to be true, right? Like, I'm not talking about Saylor. I'm talking about all these copycats. Let me see if I can find it. I actually have a ChatGPT like little thing that's pulled up. Let's see if I can pull up this Protos. Okay. So again, I don't know if this article is like 100% right or not, but people can go look at each individual company and see what they're doing. But like, for example, there's a Solana treasury. They take 2% in fees, plus they have options, warrants, other compensations. You also have Pump's treasury, where there's a 5% initial fee, and then there's like I think there's like a 15% P&L carry for him, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's not posted here, but basically, like, he has an additional like performance fee. Like, if Bitcoin goes up, he gets like an additional 15%. So these things are gonna be a problem moving forward. And like, if you need any other sort of like, hey, maybe we're in a bubble post, like, take a look at this one, right? You literally have Matt Gaetz buying Pengu. Like, this is not early adoption. Bitcoin treasuries are not early adoption. Like, where we are in this cycle is not early adoption. Where we are in this cycle is like full-blown leveraging, full-blown speculation, full-blown like in the public ethos. And why is that the case, right? It's because every asset has been up only, and people go further and further on the risk curve. And I'm not saying Bitcoin at fair prices is actually like an anti-risk asset, but like, when every alt under the sun is up only, when, you know, even like, look at Pump Fund, right? And I know I just have this tweet up, but I'm just going to talk a little bit. You look at Pump Fund, it's up like 2x, it pumped like 2x off its lows, right? So maybe not 2x, maybe like 60-70%. Anyways, it's the same thing. You know, ETH open interest, almost the same as Bitcoin too. Let me see if I can pull that up. Like, again, like, the signs are, to me at least, quite alarming. Like, let's look at open interest on ETH versus Bitcoin. Like, ETH is 20% less open interest than Bitcoin, right? Like, again, these are the type of things you see at where there's speculation in the market. There's clearly speculation in the market. I don't think there's any doubt about that even. You even look at some of these indicators, right? I remember I saw Will Clemente talking about this, if that's his name. Might be blanking on it. But when dominance by open interest like starts to close out, that's when you want to be a little bit worried. And that's what we've seen, right? Like, dominance by open interest, like Bitcoin open interest is high, ETH open interest is almost like the same, which is wild. And others, like, is still like almost there as well. So I don't know. To me, clearly I've been wrong. Like, at any given point, you know, it reminds me of this Taleb quote, and I mentioned it before. Maybe the probability at any given point is that we go up, but the magnitude of each move, I think, is asymmetric. And so like, and he was saying why he was short, despite the fact that he thought that odds were higher that markets went up than they went down. And this is basically why I'm bearish, because I see like all this fragility that's built into the system. Stocks have been up only, and as a result, like crypto's been up only, leverage has been up only. Pull up this chart again, and at some point things are gonna flush, and it might be a situation where we never trade at these levels for a very long time. Because, like, again, once we go down, the treasury thing is already done, but the treasury thing's even more insidious because there's not going to be any treasury buyers at the lows. Like, let's say we go to 80K again, and obviously, like, maybe that seems far-fetched given where we are now. I don't think it is. I think actually even lower isn't that far-fetched, but let's say we go down, right? The treasuries are not going to be buyers. In fact, they're going to be like net parasites for years to come, right? Because they have fees, etc. They're going to be slowly dumping their Bitcoin, besides Sailor, and besides maybe a select few others. And so you have this situation where, and by the way, like, I haven't looked into it to this degree yet, but like, why are a lot of these people getting into making their own Bitcoin treasuries, right? There has to be, like, it has to do with these fees, these advisor shares, etc., etc., etc. And so the net result is obviously that it's net buying Bitcoin. But just like GBTC, once the GBTC trade sort of stopped, it became an overhang on the market. And I think this could be an overhang, an even bigger overhang, as a result. So, I'm still bearish. I still think the risks are to the downside. I think Bitcoin's upside is still limited. I still think that there's a lot of risk in this market. In fact, there's more risk than there was a week ago. There's more risk than there was 2 weeks ago. There's more risk than there was 3 weeks ago. Like, look at the first time we got to, and maybe I'll end on this note. Look at the first time we got to 123K. Global open interest was around 90 billion. Look at today, right? It's at 111 billion. It's up 20 billion in that 1 month span. So this is like apes gaining confidence, apes leveraging up, and I always say, like, if it's a Bitcoin only led rally, I'm all for it. I'm all for riding a Bitcoin led rally. But when every coin is pumping, or if it's Bitcoin and 3 other coins, right? If it's Bitcoin and ETH, I'm all for it. But when it's Bitcoin and it's ETH and it's, pick your poison, right? Like, there's all these other coins, like Litecoin was up and Doge and whatever, right? Like, clearly Doge isn't up the same as it was in November, December. Obviously Doge like goes through these multi-year cycles. But when everything is up, like, it's just a ticking time bomb. And I've seen this again, like, it's been a long time, right? It's been a long time since we've seen one of these where you don't get flushes. In fact, you get like leverage increasing. We didn't even see that in December, right? Because by the time we got to the Bitcoin top, we already had a big flush, and a lot of alts started their death cycle, right? And then once you got to like 108, 109, that second flush like killed a lot of alts, right? And so even when you pumped again with Trump, like, it only lifted like one sector of the market, which was that Solana ecosystem, and even that like ended up dying out, right? So, and same exact thing, by the way, last summer. Now, obviously, like, the altcoin sort of froth lasted maybe for about a month, maybe slightly more than a month, but it was more of a rotation game, right? It wasn't like everything was pumping at the same time. Like, if you look at the open interest, like, people were just rotating around, and so some coins were strong, some coins were weak. You didn't get this fractal where actually like leverage was going up. And the last time I personally saw something like this was summer, or like the pre-summer of 2021, specifically April and May, where again, like, this data, like, for some reason is super screwed up at that point. But April and May of 2021 is the last time I personally saw something like this. So ultimately, we'll see what happens. I still think that the risks are super high. Like, and By the way, you could have longed like some of these dips. You could have gone in on some longs in April and May of 2021 and made some money. In fact, I did, right? Like I bought the dip to I think I bought like 48 or 49K or something like that. You could have bought those and you would have made money, right? But would have probably been better to just walk away for 2 months. So ultimately, we'll see what ends up happening. I know this was a super long-winded video. I haven't posted an update in a while, so I figured I would just post a longer one. But anyways, guys, appreciate it. And until next time, take care.